Aloha, Rocky Mountain Temple.
Hello, Wendy.
This is our third interview that we've done for the U.S. Soul Initiation. We did Estia Temple, the Blue Mist Mountain Temple, and now this is the Rocky Mountain Temple Tribe.
Mm.
Yay! Can you guys tell us a little bit about the Rocky Mountain temple scene and how your triad kind of came to be for this container and how it's going?
Yeah, I think it feels good to name like the land first, and I feel like both of you have more pieces of that if you want to bring that in.
Sure. Yeah, this land is the land of the Ute, or in their language, they're the Nuche. So they're the indigenous peoples of this land, the Front Range of Colorado, the eastern slope of Colorado, the Rocky Mountains. And I want to note that, Estia is on the western slope. So we've got like both sides of the continental divide covered in our temples. And also the Cheyenne and the Arapaho are the indigenous peoples, first peoples of this land. It's a, high arid mountain desert, but it's populated by many millions of people, and it's this beautiful confluence of urban and nature. Like the mountains are right behind us in this. You can't see it in this frame, but you're facing west in our picture, and the mountains are this way. What else? What else do you want to say?
Yeah, I think it's just so much spiritual tradition on the Front Range, like from obviously the First Peoples and Boulder and Naropa University and Estes Park, and there's just it's such a rich being of land that people are called to, and they're called here particularly for soul growth and spiritual development. And in that, we're blessed that there's a pretty lively community that has come through various threads, from the ISTA thread and the Haydn thread and many more. And we've been journeying together for, I don't know, where are we at, like 4 years ish that we've been involved. We're coming on, and there are a lot of different, there's different multiple temples, and they come and they go, and there isn't like, we're here representing kind of the region, and there isn't like a particular location that we're all part of, but we've all been in multiple locations together. So it's kind of a little bit of the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'll say is that, I've lived in a lot of different places. And so I've just moved to Colorado in April from a deep, deep meditation that after leaving Haydn, I was, just asking life to reveal. And it was this really beautiful series of unfoldings that have me here, and it feels right. What I'll say about the spiritual community here is that it feels really mature. So, Kauai has its own tone that's, evolved but really light. Austin has a tone of like everybody's kind of new, like it feels very cultivated here, in different traditions, not just the Trans-Himalayan. Yeah, there's a real sweet maturation, and then there's this quality of like earthen and dark, dark and matter, that people are really connected with. And it feels like, yeah, there's a huge community of us Templars that I feel like, it very much feels alive, and it feels like we are moving as like a living temple, even though there's no physical place established at the moment. and then our triad came together. I mean, everything feels like a revelation these
Mhm.
days. Not much effort, but I guess we were all in teachings of the temple last year together, which was something that Bruce had led, Bruce Lyon. And then Kali and I were at Haydn together, and yeah, and then here we are, um, embodied. I think what draws us all in closest is the core itself. So we keep, you know, feeling each other in the center of, you know, yeah, I guess the center of the center. And you kind of open your eyes and see who's there, and it keeps being these two. So
Mhm, mhm.
Mm. Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you guys are holding, well, essentially like the Ray 3 for the US American Initiation Temple. And there's 7 other temples across the nation holding different pillars or different rays. And each one has their very own unique flavor of emerging, and they're all so different. But with us all coming together, we're really, I think, synchronizing in soul initiation together, like the bigger picture of the US soul and all of our individual roles, and then the roles of our lands, and noticing a natural coming together and a weaving and working together. And so a couple questions I want to ground in with you guys are maybe some of your like individual experiences or takes on just soul initiation in general. And also what you've experienced in this container, anything that you want to share, integrate, or land in this US soul mandala initiation.
big questions.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in some ways, soul initiation started when I was born, you know, or before, I guess, or, you know, past lifetimes. But really, you know, because of my parents raising me in a way that was very clearly not the way to be, there was always this like connection to, well, what is the way to be? And like listening to something, some greater intelligence for like the guidance, because the parents were not the guidance. Um, and, you know, it really kicked off when I was like 21, you could say. And usually there's, yeah, some sort of a crisis or something that happens where you're like going along and, you know, you kind of hit a wall. Like I literally crashed a car, you know, and, you know, things kind of like knock you out where you're like, okay, this is obviously not the way to be, you know, what else is there? And you kind of learn a more subtle way of listening. Yeah, and for me, when I was 21, I kind of jumped off the cliff of society and, you know, pretended money didn't exist and, you know, just let the river of life take me. And yeah, I've been living that way for like 15 years. And yeah, it's a journey. And it's real, you know, and I feel like there's also points where you can just like chug along for a while and then a revelation occurs. I feel like there's, you know, when you're actively surrendering, there's almost not much you have to do, right? It's like the things will happen to you. And then you get cracked open and you can, I mean, you can choose to go back numb, but who really wants to do that? You know, it's like you can feel the egg is cracking and it's time to open. And, you know, and then when you put your arrow into that surrender, yeah, the journey keeps opening in mysterious ways we could have never, ever anticipated.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. You reminded me of when I, in my early 20s, like was my first lifetime really diving deep into the Trans-Himalayan work. And that's 25 years ago now. And it was at that point in time, to me, soul initiation was really clearly outlined. It's clearly outlined in the Bailey material. The first initiation is when you're actually at this threshold where you're choosing soul on some level over personality, or your soul mission or what have you. And but what I really loved that I sort of learned new in the teachings of the temple just last year, we were in this together, is the way that Bruce frames it is that we're like in every domain, personality, soul, and monad, we're always sort of cultivating greater awareness. And sort of the idea is to develop greater consciousness in the realms of soul and monad. But that the personality is also, you don't just like push it to the side and say it's all bad. Like it's actually, you need to take care of your basic needs and in this body and the emotional body, and that every movement is to build a greater capacity to be with oneself in all those domains. And so I think there's this, I mean, there's a tipping point eventually when you're like 2/3 operating out of soul all the time, then you're, really on the threshold of the second initiation, which, as my understanding, that most people that are drawn to this are at that, in that place between the first and second initiation, like already committed to soul work and building that capacity. And so that feels really relevant. And for me, this particular container has been so electric. The folks that really are showing up are amazing humans, and it's so powerful and it's so inspiring to see people operating from that deep desire to bring what I think we all sense is this love and wisdom that underlies the American or the US spirit or soul. Like I think we all sort of really sense that and really want it to be, really want to help it come forward. Yeah.
What just moved you there?
That there are other people that feel like I feel, like really want that, want the soul of the US to emerge, and don't, like I've been so anti-US, like I've been like, I'm just like, fuck off, this, we're fucking up the world. And it's sort of like come full circle. And I want it to be a place where people are proud to be part of this country, in this land, not just some sort of sixth ray idealist nationalist kind of stuff, like truly loving love, coming from that love and wisdom, that second ray that the US soul is really here to share with the world.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked. Yeah. 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 I resonate with a lot of that. I lived overseas for 9 years, and it was like started during the first Bush presidency, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Bush is the worst." And then it was like I'd be in taxi cabs trying to hide the fact that I was American, and yeah, I've been through that, and coming back to the US feeling like feeling a call, like yes, a sense of like duty and responsibility, and and really searching for where that makes, like, where am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to engage with that? And um, I've been so blessed. I like to work with people all over the world for the last 20 years of my career, and in good ways and doing good things, and like really trying to figure out how to be a collective organism in totally unspiritual communities, but like still with that core question. And then finding these teachings and finding this community, coming more into my own sexuality, like coming into my body more fully, really relating to my body as the deep sacred intelligence that it is, has to have that, and then to like be in this container with the focus being on the US, it's a little bit like I've been a little bit like pinch me around it. And the way that it came together, so like within 4 days, I think most people have probably heard that by now, but like literally didn't exist. And then 4 days later, magical Wendy, like, and all of us, like, but it was because also like we've been weaving our relationships in so many different ways, and like the power that we actually have of the collective organism and the depth of relationship that is here, like that's the power that had us be able to come together in 4 days, um and I think what we're trying to do here is really audacious, because it's a big enough thing to be in an individual soul initiation process, much less to like try to feel and kind of grope in the dark for like, what does it mean to be in relationship with the soul of a nation? Like, how do we even do that? And I've been really aware of like the toggle between our focus on the kind of individual part of this and the soul and the national part of it. And yeah, just like happy to be in the messiness of that together. Like there's definitely a part of me that wants like more US soul presence. And I don't know how to do that, and we don't know how to do that, and we're figuring it out. Yeah. The other piece that I want to say that feels really strong, in particular with us here in the Rocky Mountains, is that after we led the temple together, Nicole Marie and Yana and I stayed on for a few minutes and we were talking, and then somehow Yana just drops this like amazing piece of information about the role of the Rockies, that like how it's mentioned that there will be a center in the Rocky Mountains in the teachings. And I mean, I can feel it in my body again. Like we all like time froze and we were all like, whoa, what? Like, why? How are we just learning about this right now? But it came in when it came in just this right moment. And then as we've started to follow that thread and discover the writings of Lucille Cederkranz and some other folks who know about a community up in Estes Park that we're trying to engage with. And in those writings, it spoke about the focus, the centers of synthesis would be places that brought together Ray 1, 2, and 7, which kind of broadly speaking, Ray 1, 2, 7. And we were like, so I think we're like right in the middle of that unfolding and feeling into what does that mean? And what is it like? It still feels hard for me to say it. There's a part of me that's like, is that really true in the way that it's written of the Rocky Mountains centers in North and South America and Canada, like really over the next 2,500 years, a huge time frame, but still the shift from the Himalayas and the East here. And that just, yeah, that so speaks to my soul of like, yes, put me there, put me in any way to like, how do we support that transition to happen? yeah, it just feels like a just brand new, like, birthing awareness in our collective consciousness of what does it mean for us to be in this place in this moment inside the questions that we're in.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, I want to weave one little last thread just around the group soul piece. I feel like these are some of the things that start to happen when you tune in to the group soul. And you know, we've had the group soul of the US, which it, you know, who knows if it's like cause and effect, but as soon as we started meditating, there were, you know, some big storms that started to come through in North Carolina and things. And it's like, is this because we're meditating for change, you know, which when we meditate, it feels like we're meditating for both catalyst and for the tranquility, you know. We don't have a, you know, outcome of what needs to happen. It's just like emerge, you know, have the soul emerge, right? And regardless of that, we were all feeling it together, right? We could feel the group body. And I think that's what Yana was pointing to with the electricity. And then, you know, as Kali and Yana and I have, you know, formed our triad, it's like these things start to reveal. Like, yeah, sure, it came out of Yana's mouth, but it feels like it just came through the center. It was like, wait, how is this even coming through right now? And I feel like that's the power of group soul, and it's much bigger than an individual can hold on their own.
mm, mhm.
And could you guys maybe describe what you're sensing from the US soul as it emerges?
Mm,
What it feels like, some of its notes or artistry,
mhm,
your senses.
mm. Mm. The thing that strikes me, like the moment I feel into that, I just become aware of so many places where that's already happening, like that soul relationship, or that the expressions of the second ray you can see are already very present. There's a strong um, impulse, I believe, in things like non-governmental organizations coming out of the US for the sake of helping the world, and various, you know, nonprofit or not-for-profit or even religious. LDS, for example, has one of the greatest extensions to serve humanity, you know, food, shelter, in education around the world. I mean, I think that is that's a second ray expression, um, that is genuine, definitively, you know, coming from the United States. And my initial impulse is to say, like, we're already there in so many ways, and it's just a matter of tending to her and sharing awareness. Like, it feels, as we drop in, for me, just I feel like this back and forth of, like, oh, you see me, I see you, you see me, I see you, see me, I see you, and that builds the coherency in the relationship. And to the degree that we just even talk about the US having a soul, I believe, brings it into form. And um, so my first hit is like, yeah, there's so much already there that I think we tend to gloss over. And you know, and then there's sort of like this negative side of that impulse. There's this sort of international policing impulse that kind of comes with that. And so it's a matter of, like, recognizing where are the places that maturation is needed, and where are the places where we can celebrate what's already unfolding.
Mm. I have to say it's been hard to me to feel her, um in the sense of she's so varied and vast. And I guess like all souls, there's parts of hers that are right, have been cut off and left out and left behind and kept in the shadow. And um that feels like that part of the work of bringing into consciousness the shadow that has been created by the Ray 6 personality feels like a key part of her soul landing fully. And that's happening in so many ways. Yeah, I mean, all of the different forms of oppression and use of power, and all of it justified in the name of freedom, right? And um yeah, even like it came through on the call the other day of, this idea of, the collective dwellers, or around race, around transphobia, like all of the pieces that are like actually being seen as like the wild, brilliant expression of life that is on this land. um and it feels it, when I try to capture it, there's like I can go to an over romanticized version of it, or I can go to a really like hard version of it. And I know in my being, I've been really just trying to calibrate of like, yeah, how to include all of that and be grounded with it and get some kind of sense of the whole. Um, and I don't know that I've got it. That's just kind of what my journey's looked like a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can share. Yeah, what's coming through in this moment as I tune into the soul of the US. Yeah, well, I have, there's a little bit of a schism between like the soul of the land and the soul of the US. And in some ways, I feel like the soul of the US is like even like a personality construct that is alive right now, or some sort of like piece of clothing or phase of life, and still it's, but it's part of, but not even the whole soul, right? Because it's before and after. um, this land has been here. And tuning into all of that, I feel, yeah, I feel like there's a real deep generosity that the soul of the US, you can say, holds. It feels like very Sagittarius. It's just like there's more than enough. There's more than enough land. There's more than enough space for every human. There's more than enough, you know, goods and food and water and, you know, whether you want to live close together or far apart, like there's a really beautiful generosity and permeability. And I feel like um also this piece of like I don't know whether it's a human responsibility or false shadow or where it comes from, but it's like this ego construct of like we're the center, like they're like the way that that's held in a negative way is like the underlying truth of that is that like in some ways the US is the center for the whole world because all beings are welcome here, because every country lives here, because there's a permeability between our soul and the souls of the other countries.
Hmm. Yes. If anyone wanted to come travel to the Rocky Mountains and experience Rocky Mountain Temple life. Are there any good resources out there that we could direct them to?
Good question. I mean, I would say you could probably get in touch with any of us, and like Kali was saying, it's like there's seasons of temples that will pop up, and then kind of wash away. And so there's no current, as I'm aware, like pulse of things. And there's a really rich community that there's always different events happening. And yeah, I feel like we're kind of in a deep listening at this moment. And it's dormant. I feel this is a good question. What do you have to say? I mean, you could stay at my house, so if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think to reach out to us or other people in the community that live here, and sometimes people coming to visit us are reasons to host temples. So you might get a temple in your name if you come visit us.
Yeah. And I just want to name for some reason too, like other people that live here. So there's like, I just feel the presence, their souls for some reason, because it's not just us, right? So there's like Memphis Orion and Coral Sandler and John Wolfstone and Liz Morris and Sarah Love, I just learned lives here. And we also got Attila Jadam and Nitsan, what's her, I'm not remembering her last name right now, Nitsan, and who else is there?
Spencer occasionally. Yeah.
Gemma Wilcox is powerful. Yeah, there's like a whole web. You can get a feel for the feeling.
Beautiful. And you guys have an event that you're holding for Shambhala Impacts, May 2020 full moon. If people were feeling that land and wanted to come stand there, something cooking over there that they could come to.
You want to share, Nicole Marie? You were holding stones, so maybe.
What did the stones say? Yeah, I feel like we're actually all still in the mystery of where our bodies will be.
Yeah.
I feel like things have, we're listening to like what's revealing. So it's possible that something will reveal from this thread that opened with the temple of like, okay, Estes Park, maybe the mountains, maybe we'll all be here standing here physically. And it's also possible that we'll have stones in place for our bodies and that our bodies will each be in different places actually in the world, and that we'll kind of, entrain ourselves to this spot. And then, after WESAC, kind of be cultivating the energy on this land.
Yeah, in our reaching out to this other group, it's also in the Trans-Himalayan tradition. They have a group that's landed in Estes Park, and they're already planning for WESAC 2025. So they're already planning to congregate there. And so I'm really curious to, we're making our first forays into meeting with them and learning what they know and maybe sharing part of what we're up to and seeing what might coalesce there. And so it is very much we're sort of open to what the mystery holds, but it does feel like there's definitely a point here in the Rocky Mountains that will be held for enduring WESAC, whether it's through this EIT and Soul of America movement or another movement. I feel like, the three of us are committed to having our prayers and intentions to really be a point on the grid for that, the Shambhala Impact 2025.
Yeah, I want to share. And so just before that, actually, in April, on the 16th to the 21st, there's going to be an Avatara event. in the Rocky Mountains. So that'll be in Evergreen, Colorado. And we have John Eden Kahn coming from Berlin, and Tracy Kelleher and Attila are facilitating. And we've got a really beautiful, solid crew of assistants and, people. And that will be, it feels like in many ways, that'll be like a dilation point for us to all get super clear and have the revelation of like, okay, where are we actually going now? So we'll be gathering here for that, and then we'll all be off on our ways to wherever we'll be in May. So that's a really, really powerful point. If any of you feel called to join us, please,
Thank
please
you.
come.
Is there anything else that feels alive and yummy to share before we close?
I'm really feeling just all the souls who are watching this that are on the journey with us, like a thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up in the total not knowing also what you signed up to, and like um, and just like I'm present. I think I'm present to the intimacy, the delicacy of the soul initiation path, and the how essential it has been on my path for these particular moments when there has been another human who has seen my soul and has been able to be there and mirror it and let those like tiniest little vulnerable pieces come through
Mm.
and be held and be seen. And I'm just, yeah, that's what's alive in me, is bringing that energy through, and in whatever way that we can support that, here for it. And yeah, gratitude and love, and thanks for letting us figure out what we were here to share today, Wendy.
Oh, good. It was a good reveal.
Mhm.
Love you guys.
Yeah, I love you.
Me too.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And it's just, yeah, good to be here and feel you and love you.
Mm.
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 And I'll see you in a little bit for temple.
Mhm.
Mm, I love
Ciao.
you.
Mm.